Well, hello there, it's Beards and Bangers, and today we're doing another review of a British car that perhaps Top Gear may have helped preserve. So if you remember back to the early 2000s when Clarkson, May and Hammerman presented Top Gear, obviously they presented it for a very long time, they would take one of these cars and do something horrible to it, like drop a piano on it or push it off a cliff. And of course these cars have always had a cult following. If there's always an enthusiast or a group of enthusiasts out there for any car you come to mention it, no matter how bizarre. But today I'm looking at a car that I'm particularly fond of. I'm very fond of its successor, the Morris Ital. Yes, we're going to have a look at a Baby Prue Brown, or Harvest Gold to give it its official name, Morris Marina estate. So this is a mid-70s Marina. It's on an L registration. I think it's sort of 73, 74. So it's a fairly early example. Now, Marinas were a fairly short production run for British Leyland at the time. So only 9 years, 1971 to 1980. In 1980, they basically redesigned it, and we had the Morris Ital, which is almost the same car. They're rear-wheel drive, so unlike a lot of the Leyland offerings at the time, so the ADO 16, ADO 17, Mini, Allegro, Maxi, which were all front-wheel drive, the Marina still had a rear-wheel drive setup, front engine. There was a massive variety of engines, so you had the A series, you had the E series, you had the O series and the B series. In South Africa you had an inline 6 in these, so they had quite a variety of engines across the whole Marina range throughout the world. This one's powered by the 1.8 B series, which of course is the engine we know really well from the MGB and other cars as well. So this one's an estate, so they had saloon, they had estate, they even had a coupe. And this is in one of my favourite British Leyland colours. It's Harvest Gold. Now, there's a lot of brown on this car, but Harvest Gold is one of those colours, when it's clean, it really sings. I'll take you back to the Allegro video I did a couple of years ago. Beautiful colour. Very close to tobacco leaf, which is a Rover colour, but just slightly brighter. When the sun's out, when the car's nice and clean and has been polished, it really is a beautiful, beautiful colour. This belongs to my friend Alex from the channel Alex's Assets, and we're going to have a look over it and then take it for a drive. So it's a pretty typical 70s car, very similar to some of the Hillman and Sunbeam offerings. Of course, its main rival was the Ford Escort. But yeah, beautiful in this colour, interesting in the estate version. We'll actually start with the boot. So it being an estate, it's quite full of stuff, which is just, well, a very practical car. But I'm not going to peer under there because someone's personal possessions, but the fact it's actually full gives you a real good appreciation of how much stuff you can get in there. So it's a very practical car. If we have a look under the bonnet, we can see our B series engine. Now it's quite different to so our bonnet pulls there. We'll try and get this open without cutting. Where's our catch? There it is. So bear with, just put this stalk up. Yes, unlike the MGB, which of course this engine's very famous for, that's got a very long, narrow engine bay. So of course everything's in a line, whereas with the Marina you've got a much, much wider engine bay. And we get a really good appreciation of what's going on under here. Nice new expansion tank, nice new brass fittings on the radiator. We have got a proper radiator on this, which is good. There's our lovely yellow Leyland fan. And there's our B series engine, so quite tunable. Of course the MGBs came with a twin carb setup. This one's got the single carb. We've got a little washer bottle over there. We have got servo assisted brakes. We've got, of course, coil ignition. There's our dizzy down there. Oil filter pointing upwards. Wiper motor, I like that, the way that's kind of sitting. That's quite interesting. And of course, being an older car, we can get away with a very tiny little battery. We've got chrome, still got chrome on these. The Ital, of course, became all plastic. We've got chrome bumpers. We've got lovely chrome wheel trim. Alex's trademark dice as the valve caps. And yeah, it's a pretty utilitarian shape, but these things do look nice now. And you know, I do think that the Marina's popularity has grown undoubtedly since Clarkson and May and Hammond were dropping cars on them. If we jump inside, we've got very brown interior. These leopard skin seats are just fantastic. So doors pretty basic, obviously windy windows, little armrest on the door, and a plastic door handle. Jumping in, we've got a very, very slim steering wheel, so that's typical sort of Leyland. Everything's brown. Look, brown, 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 brown. Masses of legroom. I'm actually showing you the legroom. Yes, hopefully I am. Good old headlining, a little bit of leopard, a bit more leopard up there. We've got this lovely sort of vinyl headlining. Brown, 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 and then a beautiful green carpet. Now that just looks lovely. Working around the dashboard as we normally do, we've got fresh air vent. We've got our lights, choke, hazard warning lights perhaps. We've got rear wiper, rear heated screen. Obviously being a Leyland car, being a 70s car, we've got indicators on the right, so the old school before we went to the European pattern. Wipers on the left. Heater controls. Heater works really well in this, so we've got our direction, we've got our temperature. Fan I think is there. Quite nice period looking but actual actual modern USB radio. Of course we've got an ashtray because this was an era when people used to smoke. I think that's a speaker, I think that's a fresh air vent. We've got a lovely little glove box up there with some driving gloves. Everything's very brown, quite tactile, quite a soft finish. Our binnacle is speedo, fuel, heat, and then some warning lights. We have got a rev counter in this as well, so it's all pretty sensibly laid out. It's quite a spacious cabin. It's a time when cars were fairly spacious. Of course, cars now are massive. They look massive, but they're tiny inside because they've got so much safety equipment. It's needed these days because a lot of people on the roads can't actually drive. So it's probably not a bad thing that these cars have got so many safety features. But yeah, these cars were much maligned, but the enthusiasts who own this car are true enthusiasts. They really are. They're lovely cars. I do look occasionally at Marinas and Itals. I resist getting one, but it's definitely a car that I would consider. I haven't even driven it yet, and I'm telling you that because I just think they were much derided. They were, British Leyland itself was much maligned, much derided, but that's all part of the charm. That's why, these cars are loved and have these massive enthusiast group. So I'm going to plonk my arse on these lovely leopard skin seat covers, and we're going to take you for a spin. We're up in Derbyshire today. Beautiful, beautiful day actually. It's a bit fresh still. Got the Beards and Bangers beanie hat on. If you would like one of these, because it's probably going to be cold for a little while longer yet, then there's a link somewhere on this page to buy one. And while you're about it, if you don't already do so, please give us a subscribe. 70% of my viewers are not subscribers, so hit that subscribe button and bell notification. You'll get told when I upload videos like this. Give us a thumbs up, drop a comment down below and share with your friends. But without further ado, let's get out and take this Marina 1.8 estate for a drive. Right, so here we go. Let's take this Marina that doesn't want to stay in gear out for a little drive. Always got to remember with these older cars, you've got your indicator on your right hand, so just bear that in mind if you're taking one out. We should be very polite and wait for this car to come past rather than speeding off out of this junction. But because it's a mid-70s car, but it doesn't feel out of date. It's very simple, which I like. It's it's literally a steering wheel, a few knobs and buttons, and a gear stick. Lovely whine from the gearbox. I do like that sound. That's lovely. Rover 75 just going past us. But that picks up nice. We're at 40 already. Take my hat off. I'm rather warm in here. So it's a 4-speed non-overdrive on these. So it being a Morris, the Morris was the kind of the more everyman mark of British Leylands. Of course, the prestige marks were Rover and Jaguar, and to a lesser extent Triumph. But yeah, this is that drives nice. Not much wheel wobble. The steering's as precise as one would expect for a 50-odd-year-old car, but we're pottering along here at 50 miles an hour. Engine's at 3,000 RPM, but it's not screaming, and it's quite quiet. Obviously, we've got a fairly kind of a sensible exhaust on it. No stainless steel here. Down into third. Cyclist. Now I reckon there's 3 cars in front of me, so one of them's going to get the 30 points for dealing with that cyclist. But the brakes are good. Of course, you've got discs up front, servo assisted, and drums at the rear. So it is very usable, and this car is used as a daily driver. Alex, the owner, is not a fan of modern cars, it's fair to say, and this car is used daily. It's practical. You've got a massive boot, you've got space for 4/5 adults very comfortably. The gear change is easy and crisp. The steering's really nice. It's a little bit of play in it, but I think most 50-year-olds have a little bit of play in them. Well, hopefully anyway. But yeah, just pottering along here, not screaming. It's not screaming at all. The red line on this is at 6,000 RPM, but I probably wouldn't be taking it to that kind of level myself. But I'm just ambling along here. It's a country road. So I think we're Derwent Valley. We're near Ambergate. Of course, the Great British Car Journey's there, so it's a fairly pleasant area, gateway to the Peak District. But that's just, that's pottering along really nicely. Now, you're not going to win any prizes for speed. You're not going to be taking this to a track day. Well, you might do if you've souped up a bit. But if you're looking for an everyday classic, a usable classic, maybe even a first classic, then something like this would really fit the bill, because you can work on them yourselves. It is, you've got a fairly basic engine bay in there. You can work out what everything is, even if you're just reading from a Haynes manual for the first time. So these kind of cars that were perhaps less desirable years ago, like the Marina, like the Allegro, are the ones to potentially get if you're wanting to get into classic motoring. You haven't got the complexity of twin carbs, that you've got to balance and keep in tune, which can be very frustrating. So it's gone past the Great British Car Journey. That's where we're going to go back to in a minute. So yeah, I knew I would like driving this car, because I've driven a Marina before. I think that was actually an E-Series power bomb, but that was a saloon. But this is, with the B, you've got plenty of torque. Okay, with the single carb, you haven't got masses of power, but it would be a perfectly acceptable mod to put twin 1.5 SUs on it if you really wanted to. But I think this car is nice because it is so original, and it's better for that. We've got a tractor ahead, so we just ease back a little bit. But I'm not getting any crunching from the gear. It's going in nicely, so it's obviously been well maintained. I think Alex did change the gearbox oil on this car fairly recently, so that's always a good thing to do with an older gearbox. It's not just oil change on the engine, you've got other fluids that need to be renewed as well, so it's really important to do that. This is a lovely part of the world. What a nice place to do test drives. Right, so let's head back. I'm going to conclude from this position because I am so relaxed. I'm in the town of Belper, which is pretty much a mining country, well, what was mining country. But I just had a really relaxing drive. It's obviously 30 through the town, but straight into a 50. we got a nice bit of the A6 to get back to the Great British Car Journey on. I really enjoyed the short drive I've had in this car. You can get examples for, you know, around £1,000, but they will need work. But a usable example, £3,000, maybe £4,000, something that's really rare and that's in very good condition, I've seen at £6,000. But I think there's probably even stuff that's higher. And let's not forget, I'm so relaxed I can just sit, drive like this. It's such an easy car to drive. Such an easy car to drive. Well, I have had one of these sideways in the wet, believe it or not. Yeah, for a car that was maligned, for a car that people were, you know, they were changing hands for a few £100, they were getting scrapped left, right and centre, they were getting destroyed on car television programmes or car comedy programmes, depending on your point of view. But yeah, how different a world we now live in, where undesirable cars are suddenly desirable and usable because they're different. You know, you wouldn't design a car like this now. All cars look the same. They're all the same colour. They're the same shape. You haven't got radiator grills. You've got these funny things called electric engines. Up front in this car, we've got one of the, probably the second most iconic engine that the British Leyland and their predecessors and successors ever made, the B series. How many MGBs are still on the road with this engine in them? These are fantastic cars with fantastic engines. This one's obviously owned by someone who thoroughly knows what they're doing with cars and maintains it to within an inch of its life. But thank you, Alex, for letting me loose on Marley the Marina. It's been really nice, and I will see you again on the next episode of Beards and Bangers. Who knows what it will be about? Very soon. Goodbye.